Okay, question 17. Hopefully, of course, you've looked at this. What we have is a situation where it says you have £10,000 overheads that have been over-absorbed. You have too much in there. So let's see how we actually got here. I've actually just cut out the question really quickly and put it here. What happened was, I don't know, you would have had some sort of fixed overhead absorption rate where you were saying, listen, we're putting in £5 for it. I'm making this up entirely. £5 for every hour that we work, right? So you religiously put in £5 with every hour that you work. So in the end, let's just say you've put in, I don't know, whatever, you've put in 10,000 hours. So therefore, your accounts would look like this. You'll have your overhead costs, production costs, and your overhead accrual. And therefore, you would have put in 50,000. And that's how things would look like right now. And this would go, of course, to the income statement, if you like. But then you actually realize what actually happens is you find out that actually the cost that we're talking about, the overhead, actually is 40,000. So you can see the issue now. You currently have a cost sitting in your income statement of 50,000 when it should be 40,000. So you have over-absorbed by 10,000. This is currently in the income statement. This thing, you've transferred this already to the income statement, right? But you find, I mean, the system is all connected. This is an expense account, and this is in your income statement. So what do we do? Well, really, the argument here is, well, we don't owe 50,000. We owe 40,000. We owe 40,000. So this overhead accrual or this overhead control account, what we now need to do is to reduce it by 10,000. So we debited 10,000, and if you like, credit the income statement 10,000, right? And that's kind of the best where we're going to see here. Credit that for 10,000. You could, depending on how your double entry was, it's just that we know what this will all end up in the income statement. So another accountant might say that, oh, we don't transfer to the income statement till we're done. So that technically could have come here, but we know we're transferring this to the income statement, so this will go directly to the income statement. So the whole idea here is that we have currently hit ourselves with too much cost, and therefore we need to reduce that, which in effect is increasing our income statement. So you can see here, that's why we're crediting the income statement, because that's an improvement in the income statement, right? So the answer here is D, right? So things that increase your income statement are credits to it, yes, of course, and things that reduce your income statement or your profit, forgive me, are debits to your income statement. Okay, and that is question 17. Now let's look at the next question. Question 18, a nice one. I mean, this is an expense, right? This is an expense. So you know, right, this is indirect costs. You know that at the end, all these costs are going to be recorded within the wages control. I mean, this is where this final expense is going to be, right? So typically what would have happened is this. Let me just really take you through the whole process. Here's the overhead expense. Then you have an overhead control account, right? So you would go debit overhead expense, credit overhead control. Then you will transfer this to the income statement, technically. This goes to the income statement, so you have your income statement. And then you have this control account, but we're really transferring this control. I mean, it's a liability that has to be paid, and so it goes out of here into the wages control. So that's really what's happening. So the double entry really is the debit of the overhead control and the credit of the wages control account. And that's really the jump. So what they're kind of doing here is jumping a little, but the process must be to first of all debit overhead expense, credit overhead control. We now have all this liability. It's all there. Okay, now we now know that we now have a full-on expense to pay, so we can now transfer all of that into the wages control account. Great stuff. And so you can see the point here is you have to pay someone, right? You have to pay. It's incurred. So you know you're going to be crediting your wages control, And it has nothing to do with work in progress. This is purely indirect costs relating to, they might be supervisor wages, things along those lines that we need to record and pay. Cool. Okay. We haven't paid them yet. It just says that we need to record them and accrue for them. And that's question 18. That's question 18. Let's see. It's really just an exercise in administration, ultimately, and just being very careful. So I'm sure you've read all of this, but we just have to be very careful. The point here is that you're being paid £8 an hour, and there's some benchmarks. A basic shift, a basic pay for 6 hours. Anything over that, you get a time and a half. On Saturday, for 3 contracted hours, you get basic pay, and anything over, you get double pay. And then on Sunday, you just get double pay. So it's just walking very carefully. So let's look carefully. Let's start on Monday. We can see here clearly that you've done your 6 hours, but you've also done some extra. So as far as your basic pay is concerned, which should cover all the 8 hours, this is the way they're doing this. We're doing 8 times 8, right? So we're looking at all the time at basic pay first. So that's 8 hours times the £8. Thank you. Now we have premium time, which is half of this, half of the 8, which is 4, on the additional hours. On the additional hours. So you did additional 2 hours, and so you're getting 4 times 2, aren't you? So you're getting 2 times 4, which is 8. And that's what you're doing here. So we have 64 here. We have 8 here. This gives us 72, doesn't it? Right? So that's how we're doing it. 8 hours in total, but all at the standard rate, and then 2 hours of overtime we record here. Okay, let's look at the next one. Here you've got 2 hours here, you have 4 hours here. So fair enough, they're on different projects, but you only really have a total of 6 hours. So you have a total of 6 hours. Pay those 6 hours at the £8 rate. There's no, and that's 48, right? There's no overtime, so your total is 48. Here you do 8 hours. This is literally looks exactly like this, doesn't it? Doesn't matter where you do the work. Point is that you give 8 at the standard rate of 8, which takes you to 8 times 8, that's 64. But then you give half the premium is half of the 8, isn't it? And that's 4. So that's 4 times 2 again, and that's 8. So that's identical to the Monday. That's identical to the Monday. Thursday, you have your straight 6 hours, nothing fancy. Actually, similar to Tuesday, exactly. Actually, you go in, you do your 6 hours. So you have 6 times 8 again, and that's 48. You don't have any overtime. And then you have here 48 as well. Right. Here, what's interesting is that you have done again on Friday your 6 hours, not a problem. But this time you're doing 7 hours. So 7 hours at £8, which is 56. But then you have the extra hour, which you've done at half again, which gives you 4, isn't it? Because it's just the 1 hour times the £4, so that's 4. So it's 56 plus 4, and that takes you to 60. It's just really you just have to be really careful with these. That's all. Saturday 6 hours. Let's look carefully at what they say. So they're saying for 3 contracted hours, pay the basic pay. So for 3 hours, give them basic pay times 8. Not a problem, right? Then it says for the extra 3 hours, and any hours above that, and in this case, which would be 3 because we have a total of 6, give them double pay. So that double pay really means we're giving them the normal pay first at 8, and then we're giving them another 8. So if I want to just make sure I capture the basic pay actually first, these are the first 3 hours at 24. Then there's the 24 here, which is the standard hours for the extra hours. And then there's the actual premium, which is also double. I mean, when I say double, it's the 8 as well. It's not 4, it's 8. So that's 24. So in effect, I have 24, 20. I mean, I have these two 24s together because that's how we're recording this. And then I have 24 here as well. So this 24 is made up of the 8 times 3, which is the premium. But the other 8 is times 3 is within the actual full situation. So I have £72 here. And then here you have 3 hours, and it tells you clearly that you are doing double pay on this. So it is really 8 times 3, and the premium is 8 times 3. So you really have 24, 24, and then you have 48, right? And then just add all your work together, and this should be fine, is really what we're doing here. right? But like I say, it's more an admin question, isn't it? It's quite long-winded, but it's just what it is. It's not a bad question. We just have to work through it carefully. Good grief, Doc. And that is question 19. Long-winded question, but I think it's the understanding of it that I think you're there. I actually used Excel just because I didn't want to make any errors, but I don't think you have that capacity. I think this is more for learning. And you would be given a table anyway in your exam. So you're told fundamentally that this group are expected as a standard, if you like, that every hour as a group that they spend working as a group, they need to come out with 800 units. And this table gives you the number of hours they actually work. And then you can then from here find what the standard units should be. The issue, of course, here is to do with this question of calculating the bonus, which says that once you've found these standard and excess issues, you can then find, well, the standard, forgive me, and the after you can find the excess. So let's look at that. So I'll show you what I've done so far. I said, okay, look, these are the hours that you've worked. I've just literally taken this from the table. And you have your actual production, right? That's also from the table. So what I've done here is it says that you're expected to do 800 hours. So that's 800 hours times, 800 units times the hours that you do. So 920 times 800. So these are the standard units we expect you to come out with. And they come to a total of 4 million, don't they? Yes, you can see they're 4 million, but you've done 5.4 million. So just following the formula, really, the excess, of course, yes, without just sort of laboring the point, is just the 540 and the 5.4 million less the 4 million, which gives you 1.4 million. And so this is your excess. The formula tells you that you should take that excess as a percentage of the standard, right? And I think that's what I do here. You sort of see me saying C8 minus D8 divided by D8. And that gives you this sort of figure first, and then it tells you to multiply that by 25% and then by 100, if you like. And so when you do that, you get 8.75%, right? So let's just go to because they give us a table to sort of do all of this in. So actual production is 5.4 million. Standard production is 4 million. Excess production, of course, is 1.4 million. The bonus is therefore the bonus percentage, which we've just worked out.
I was going to put you onto the shop to buy some.
The excess production, the excess over the excess is 1 point. Sorry, I was throwing out my stride there. Forgive me. The excess over there, as we have just calculated the bonus percentage, which we arrived at 8 point. Let's just go back there again. 8.75. That's what we have there. 8.75 is which you saw me do there. You have to use the formula. I mean, you can see it's given to you here. It says that's the bonus percentage. Just take 25% times that excess of 1.4 over 4 times 100, and you will arrive at that figure of 8.75 percent. Yes, 8.75%. 8.75%. Then it tells you to then calculate this percentage times £10. I mean, 8.75% as a decimal, right, is 0.0875 times £10. So if you now do this 8.75%, when you multiply this, you now have 0.875, and then you now have the 0.875, and then you now multiply the 0.875 by the this is per hour, so the total number of hours, because you're getting a bonus based on all the hours being done, is 5,000 times 0.875. 5,000 times 0.875. 5,000 times 0.875 is equal to 4,000, is equal to 4,000. 0.875 is equal to 4,375. Just long-winded. And again, we're just doing all these questions. I think it's more interesting, I'm yet to really look at what the actual questions are on the AT portal. We'll see how close they are to this kind of thing. But yeah, we'll look at that when we get there. So it says here, therefore, a second, let me just pause this so I can read the question. To read the question there and see what I was working with. It says here that an employee gets works 44 hours last week and is paid a basic rate of £9.60 an hour. So that's going to they're going to get that, and they're also going to get the bonus, of course, 44 hours at 0.875. It is 0.875 an hour of bonus. So let's add all those up together. 44 times £9.60 is 422.4, and then you have 44 times 0.875, and that's 38.5. When you add two together, you get a total of 460.9. Yes, 460.9. And there you are. That's your answer for that. So just long-winded, but just follow it carefully. There, I think that's kind of the way to deal with that. And of course, when you're multiplying percentages times amounts, we must change them to decimals. They're just decimals really in effect, aren't they? Okay, good. 21. I'm just going to sort of state for the record that I thought this question was slightly confusing because, I mean, first of all, we've just done above, if you look at question 819 on cart cycle. There's pretty much the same thing. There's pretty much the same idea. And I almost now, because what happened was I kind of worked through this and noticed that it wasn't quite working the way I wanted. And what they've done, and so I'm just going to go to the answer, because they are the same thing. I'm going to go to the answers to compare the two, which I think is rather slightly confusing. If you look here in question 19, we're somewhat clear that these hours are in addition. So, for example, you actually worked a total of 8 hours here, 8 hours. Same, you worked a total of 6 hours here, right? And here you worked a total of 8 hours. You worked a total of 7 hours, right? It's not these hours are not in these are very clear separate hours, but there's a slight difference here with this question. I think they just could be a bit clearer here, but you don't work 11 hours, you see, because if we had treated this in the same way. So here within these 8 hours, 3 of those hours are indirect work. Within these 7 hours, 4 of those hours are indirect work. And then you have 8 hours here. Within this 7 hours, 1 of those hours are indirect work. I mean, we have done the math, so I'm going to use the answers here. So for example, here, where you work 8 hours in total, right? The point here is that if you're over 7 hours, well, 1 of those hours is overtime, what we're saying, because 7 hours is the benchmark, right? So again, the whole idea is to multiply all of this by the standard rate of 10, which is what you're seeing here. Isn't it? Or you're just multiplying all of these by 10. And whatever the overtime is just the premium we're interested in, isn't it, in terms of here? And that's what we have here. So in this case, where you work 8 hours in total, 7 hours and 1 hour of overtime, because you've already multiplied 8 by the 10, we're only needing to multiply the 1 times the premium, which is 5. And that's what you see here. That's what you see here. It doesn't matter. The same thing. Monday and Wednesday are exactly the same. You have exactly 1 hour additional hour overtime. Here you have 7 hours, so you don't have any overtime. You literally just have 7 times 10. Here you have exactly 7 hours as well, because this hour is in here. It's not 8, it's 7. So these are all 7. So these are all 70, and the 80s are what they are. With Saturday, let's just look at the rules on Saturday. What the rule is, it's 3 hours that's worked only. So I think something tells, it says here on Saturday for any, sorry, was that Sunday? Let me just look very quickly. Yes, for Saturday, it says that for any hours in excess of 2 hours, the overtime is paid at 75% of basic pay. So give the 3 hours as normal, which is what we've done here, 30. And then you have 1 extra hour of overtime because that's one more than the normal 2. And then you multiply that at 75%, and that's 75% times 10, isn't it? And that's why you have £7.50. And so you have this kind of this finishing, and that's it really. So again, it'll be clearer whether or not. So don't please. We're just doing all the questions to see what they look like. Now, what's interesting here with this labor cost account, they give you the actual headings. They have to really because, in a way, they can sort of. I think they could have called this. I'm not really sure where they're going with this, but the point, I think, if you're filling in exactly, because they've given you what to fill out, in effect. They've given you what to fill out. And so, in terms of what production is, well, because this is everything, everything is 40 hours. So we have 40 hours in total. 9 of those hours are indirect. So therefore, 31 of those hours are direct, right? And that's why you have this 31-hour thing going on here, times the standard rate of 10. And so that's your direct cost, your production cost, and everything else, if you like, everything else. I mean, here's your total of 417 here. So your basic rate, of course, I mean, is 310 your production, and then the balance, of course, goes to overheads. But we know that we had 9 hours, so 9 times 10 is the standard rate there, because we charge these overtime hours to overheads. We're charging these hours to overheads here, and that's if you like 107. Slightly bit of an odd question. I think it's slightly riddled. I mean, remember, it's an examiner writing this. Someone's putting these questions together, so there are strong potential for flaws in the structuring of the question. But I don't think this has been well thought through. The 19 was much better, much clearer. But that's how you would have worked this one out. Okay. This question 22, a nice question actually, if you just follow it carefully. These mechanics are paid £15 an hour, and any overtime is paid at 2 different rates, and they give you the hours, which is quite nice and convenient. What you're also told is, in addition to all of this, there is the issue of a bonus, where if they basically given certain targets, and the targets are 50 trucks and 60 valets, and if they complete certain services above those figures, then they'll get a bonus based on that difference. So here they do 50 trucks, and we're expecting them to do 55 services. Sorry, we're expecting 50. You've done 55, so there's an extra 5. We were expecting you to do 60. You've done 63, so there's an extra 3. So in total, a total of 8 additional activities. I mean, you could have looked at them separately, but it'd still be the same thing. So it says that you get a bonus equal to 75% of the basic hourly rate is paid for each service. So if you like 5 times 15 times 75% is what is paid. 3 times 15 times 75% is what is paid. So technically this is really just 5 plus 3 times 15 times 75%. So let's just plug our figures in. Basic pay, 620 hours. 620 times 15 is what's really happening here, because that's what you're paying these people per hour. Is 620 times 15, and that's 9,300. It's 9,300. And then it says the first overtime rate is 36 hours, and so that's basic pay plus 30%. So you can say 36 times 15 times 1.3. I suppose you can think of it like that, to make sure you include the overtime for there, or as you wish. Just make sure you calculate, give the basic of 15 and then give 30% as well on top of that. So I would personally do it like this, where you take the basic pay and increase it first by 30% and then multiply that all out. So you have 36 times 15 times 1.3, which is 702. And then you do exactly the same thing, 20 hours times 15 times 1.5, because that's what's really happening here. 15 times 1.5 times 20 is 450. Right, so let's add all this together. So 620 times 15, as we just to confirm that. And so 9,300 plus let's do that again. 36 times 15 times 1.3. Yes, so 9,300 plus 702 plus 450 is 10, 10, 10, 2. And now we know we have a bonus. We have a bonus of, we just did that over here. That's the 5 and the 3 times 15 times 75%. So we have 8 times 15 times 0.75, which is 90. So add that on as well, 104.52, and you have 10542. Yes, and that's how you have your, and that's the answer to A, right? And that's how you work through A. So the direct labor cost is just purely the labor cost, right? No overtime in there, just what is the labor cost of doing this work? Direct labor per mechanic. Remember, there's 4 mechanics. You know, that's what the question is asking here. So per mechanic, that would have been, well, let's just get all the hours worked. That would have been 620 plus 36 plus 20 times 15, which is the cost of the total cost in effect of just pure direct labor, before any bonuses, before the overtime, is what we're really looking here. Because you see, this is what we charge people at. We will say, oh, what is the labor cost of something? And we would do that. And then if there's any overtime, there is. But in terms of just the direct labor cost, it's 620 plus 36 plus 20. And then we have multiply that by 15. So you have all of this times 15 is 10140. Divide that by 4 because you have 4 mechanics, and you have 2535, right? Then this time including the total pay for each mechanic for June. So you can see how this works out technically. The total pay for each mechanic for June would therefore be the 10542 divided by 4. This is just asking what the general situation is. So hopefully you can differentiate between the two. And then you have here you have 2635. And then finally, if we're focusing just on the bonus is £90, isn't it? Divided by 4. Bonus divided by 4, and you have £22.50. £22.50, and that's yes, and that's question 22. We'll carry on, of course, until let's finish all the labor questions. I suspect that one of these might look like what I've already done, maybe not, but if it does, I won't repeat it. But so far, we'll carry on working through the questions. So next, we'll do 23. 23. It says here that this man has to work a minimum of 37 hours a week, and he is paid £8 per standard hour worked. He's paid per standard hour work. So the question is, well, what is the standard hours that he's worked? And if we just insert that here, standard hours worked, 50 times 0.2 is 10, 200 times 0.6 is 12, 100 times 0.1 is 10, and the buttons are at 7. And when you do all this, you get 39. So our friend here has done 39 standard hours, even though he's actually worked 41. He's paid at £8 an hour for this, and you multiply these together and you get 312. So we are literally following the response of that's how he's paid. He might be paid a bonus over that in another question, but the point is fundamentally this question is asking how much is he paid for that work that he's doing based on the standard. 64, very much repeated one of the questions, just a minor maybe addition here that's different. But they tell us again, they give us all the information. You're paying at £15 an hour. So this, of course, is 500 at 15. This is 50 at 15 times 1.5, because that's 1.5, isn't it? This is 20 at 15 times 2, right? And this is 570. Well, so let's work these out very quickly. I'll calculate them and then erase with that. So 500 times 15 is 7,500. 7,500, right? And then you have 50 times 15 times 1.5 is 1125. You have 1125. Then you have 20 times 15 times 2, because that's double the pay. That's 600. Right. Actually, I should have done, well, this is the working. I should have written it the other way, shouldn't I? In terms of 500 times 15 times 15 times 1.5. Sorry, 50 times 15 times 1.5, and then 20 times 15 times 2. And then let's do that. Let's add it all together. So 7,500 plus 1125 plus 600. It's 9225. We're told that the bonus is based on these additional 500 polls. These extra 500 polls. And these 500 polls, it says that you're giving it at 10% of the basic hourly rate. So 15 at 10%. So 500 times 15 times 0.1 is 750. So the total cost, 9225, is 9975. 9975. Right, so you have that at 9975. Calculate the total cost of painting a pole, so that will be 9975. It says the total labor cost divided by the number of poles that were painted, I believe were 3,500. Yeah, there you are. Divide that by the 3,500. 9975 divided by 3,500, which leaves you £2.85. Then it says the basic and overtime pay. So we'll look at everything up to here and divide that by the number of per team member, 9225 divided by 5. And here the bonus would have been the 750 divided by 5. And that's how we know, right? That's the difference. 9225 divided by 5 gives you 1845 here, and give 750 divided by 5 gives you 150. And those are the answers for that. So just separate out these two, focusing on the cost before the bonus and then focusing on the bonus. And that's question 24. Question in this series of labor. It's quite a long series actually on labor, because of the variety of questions. So you're told that you're doing this thing, making some cat food. Total number of labor hours worked 10,800. You're told that the overtime is due to an assignment and a specific customer request. So this is what they did as normal. That's what we can compare with the standard, right? They've done 10,800 when the standard was 11,200. So the total basic pay, if you like, is therefore total number of hours worked 10,800 at the £9, right? At the £9. So let's do that very quickly. 10,800 times 9 is 97,200. Now it's a very tricky question here. It says the total overtime premium. This is the overtime payment per hour. So the premium must of course be the difference, which is £5. Oh, sorry, 550. 550. So the overtime premium, is on these overtime hours. Actually, sorry, forgive me, I haven't quite finished, because you have here the 10,800 hours, of course, and then of course you also have to pay them, of course, on the 2,450. So 2,450 as well at £9. So really, I should add the two together, shouldn't I? I should be adding the two together. I should be saying, let me just do that again. 10,800 plus 2,450. Add that all together, you get 13,250 at £9. At £9, and let's see what that comes to. 13,250 at £9 is 119,250. 119. I'll just clear this out. So that is 119,250. Right. So that's on all the hours, including just the basic rate. Then the premium, of course, just is that extra, isn't it? That £5.50 on the additional hours worked. So you have £5.50 times 2,450 hours, and that's 13. Where is that? Yes, 13,475. Right. Then when it talks about the hours saved, it's asking you, it's saying, look, you were to do 10,008. Sorry, you were to do 11,200. You did 10,800. Remember, this is a specific assignment. This overtime, so it's not normal. It's not in the normal case. We're comparing total number of laborers hours worked with a standard, and so we can see a difference there of 11,200 minus 10,800, taking us to 400. So you have a 400 hours saving. 400 hours saved, and it says that you pay these people at 35% of the normal rate. So you have 400 times 0.35 times 9, which is 1,260. So we can now add and find the total labor cost, which of course would be this plus the bonus, of course. So 1,260 plus 13,475 plus 119,250 will bring us into the realms of 133,985. So that's part A of that question. Now let's look at part B. So let's finish off this. So this is the beginning of our discussion on equivalent units. And what we have here, it says here that employees will receive 45% of the basic hourly rate. That's currently at £9, no problem, for every equivalent unit in excess of the target, right? So we will have the target, and anything over that, we will then multiply that by £9 times 45%. So the target production is 450. So we have a target of 450. That's great. So we know that. We're very clear. But at the end of August, we have, in terms of materials, you are 100% complete. You have basically you have 300 units that are fully complete, and you have 200 units that are partially complete. So work in progress. But these 200 units, if you remember, what we do is we split them into material and labor. So we know that they are both 100% complete for material. There you are. They're both 100% complete for material. As the finished goods, of course, are 100% complete for labor. But these goods are not complete for labor. The work in progress, they're only 75% complete. So you know that's 200 times 75%, which takes us to 150. So as far as equivalent units are concerned, you have a full equivalent package of 450 units as far as labor is concerned. So your equivalent units with regards to labor is 450. This is exactly the same as the target. So there is no bonus in this regard. There is no bonus. Cool, great stuff. And that brings us to the end of the questions on overheads. And so in the next videos, we will be carrying on with, that brings us to the end of the videos on labor. And in the next set of videos, we will be carrying on with the videos on overheads. Okay, great stuff.